Hi, Scott Whitley here. Hope you're doing well. First of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody that's already got behind my Indiegogo campaign to raise funds for my upcoming EP solo release, In My Shoes. I can't believe it, but in the first day, we've already reached 28% of our goal. This will be my first ever solo release, so I have no way of gauging how many people will get behind the campaign, how many people will pre-order the EP, etc. So it's super exciting and unbelievably encouraging to see how things are going, like I say, just after one day. Let me tell you a little bit about the story behind the EP. Some of you may know that this has been kind of ongoing for about 10 years. It's been kind of on the back burner. Most of that time, it's not been 10 years of solid work. I'm not going to pretend that. Way back in the 1990s, when I was in my 20s, I came up with a bunch of solo bass compositions, let's call them. And they were a kind of bass concept type of thing. Instrumentals, that sort of stuff. And they were just recorded on a little cassette Porter studio that I had. I think I borrowed it off someone. And my plan always was to kind of turn these into a proper thing. You know, these were like demos just done at home. I always kind of planned to go in the studio and record them properly. But as the years passed, of course, I was busy making a living, etc. And they almost kind of disappeared from memory, if you like. But then around 2010, I was teaching at college and I got quite involved in teaching music tech, which is basically recording. It just kind of piqued my interest in recording again, and I kind of delved into those archives and dug up some of those tracks, and it sparked my enthusiasm to make an album again. As I started to kind of dig through the material I'd written way back in the 90s, I realized that I was in a different place as a musician now. I'd done an awful lot of work with different artists, etc. And I didn't really want to make that kind of album anymore. So I took what I thought to be the best from those early demos and decided to develop those some more. But alongside that, I started to write songs as well, bearing in mind that I'd spent a lot of the years leading up to this as a professional singer as well as a guitarist and a bass player. So during that early period, I think it was between 2010 and 2013, I managed to get some great drum tracks down, some great keyboard parts recorded, some rhythm guitar stuff that I needed, some fantastic solo guitar work on one of my tracks. A lot of the kind of hard stuff I got done and out of the way. But again, I got really busy in other people's projects, making a living, and my album just kind of went on a back burner again. It was always the plan to finish it, but when, who knew? Then, after so long being away from the project, it almost became something I couldn't envisage finishing. It became too monumental a thing because I've been out of that kind of headspace for so long. I got busy touring, I've been working with The Animals and Big Country, and added together that totals I think about 7 or 8 years. Just generally got too busy to really embark on that kind of project alongside teach and alongside do all the other things that I do. And because I was spending so much time on the road, I devoted a lot of my time to another passion of mine, which is photography, because that just fitted like a glove with life on the road. Every new town, new venue offered great opportunities to take photographs and document the journey. And this is pretty much the mode I was in right up until lockdown. When lockdown hit, everything stopped for musicians and pretty much anybody that's in that kind of profession. There's been no work, no gigs, but what there has been is time and the opportunity to finish projects like my solo album. I see that as a huge blessing. It's amazing that out of something so negative and destructive, there has actually been so much kind of like rebirth and new projects and rekindled interests and things like that. You know, it's just been, from that perspective, a wonderful thing. Financially, it's been a nightmare. I can't deny it. Pretty much anybody that's working in this industry will have been hit really hard to some degree. I'm not sure of the exact date when I decided that I was going to complete the album. Initially, I decided to do everything in-house or in the bass cabin and keep things as simple as possible. The first track I started working on, because it felt like there wasn't too much to do with it, was a track called Trust in Me. Originally, Trust in Me I'd envisaged to have live horns, and I just couldn't envisage how that could possibly happen in the current climate. And so I just put it to a friend of mine who I know is really good at arranging horns, a guy called Greg Harper, and he was all over it. He said, he's got to have horns on it, you know, like leave it with me. okay. And then before I knew it, he'd scored out horn parts, and we were kind of toing and froing. He was kind of playing them on the keyboard and showing me the score, and he arranged for players to record it. So all the parts were recorded by the individuals at home, and then they were sent into me, and then I put everything together. I just couldn't believe what I actually had here in the log cabin. That was a huge turning point for me, because I realised at that point these tracks were going to be way huger than I ever imagined they could be. It just raised the bar so much. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to Adam Bidgood, Liz Nightingale, Joe Martin, and Paddy Higginson for like an amazing job. The parts are just fantastic. And Greg Harper, he's been like completely instrumental in kind of making all this stuff happen. He's been like such an encouragement. Greg is a great bass player himself. I used to teach him at college. He's got the benefit of youth, but he's now a great arranger, and he's kind of scored all the parts out, etc. Thanks, Greg. So the tracks are taking on this whole new size and life, and I really needed some other players on there to complement the fantastic horn parts. I got in touch with another great friend of mine, a guy called Christian Madden, who has currently a rather famous boss, and deservedly so. This guy's at the top of history. Amazing player. He said he'd be honoured to do it, which I couldn't believe, and he put the parts down, and again, it just took everything to another level, you know, as if it wasn't good enough already. And after Christian had finished his parts, I was able to pretty much complete that track. It's now completely finished and mastered and done. I then started working on another track called Snake, and the same kind of thing happened. There was a solo section that needed filling in, and I was always going to do that solo. But now I'm thinking a saxophone would work like really well on this track. So I got in touch with Greg, and I said, you know, do you think Paddy, who played on the other track, would be up for playing a solo on this? And he said absolutely. I got in touch with Paddy, and the results are insane. So he not only played the solo, when he sent his parts back, he'd also played the melody, and he'd added some kind of little embellishments here and there. And the same thing happened. All of a sudden, this track took on this different vibe, this new life. It was amazing. It was so good, in fact, that it made me re-record my parts to kind of work around the way Paddy had played the melody. The results just beyond my wildest dreams. Again, Christian was kind enough to get involved, and he's played some Hammond in the choruses on those tracks, and electric piano in the verses, and again, just transformed the thing. Again, that track is now completely finished. An awful lot of work went into getting that track sounding the way I wanted to. Weeks and weeks of work, and I'm finally really pleased with how that sounds. So I hope you guys enjoy it too. Of course, I was and still am working towards an album release, but as I kind of neared completion of these two tracks, I realised I had another two tracks that were already pretty much complete, and that gave me an EP. It kind of gave me more than an EP, because two of the tracks are pretty long. So it was definitely an EP ready to go. The other two tracks featured some great musicians as well. I've got Chris Lewis on drums. Chris has been a friend since we were at school. We were in our first band together at school. He's a phenomenal player and had already an amazing, colourful career, and his playing on one of the tracks is just outstanding. Janet Whitley, my wife, features on several of the tracks as well. Not only is she a fantastic vocalist, and her backing vocals just work so well, they blend so well with mine, and she got really creative as well. You know, some of the stuff that you'll hear on the EP and the album later on is her stuff. It's her ideas. You know, she came up with that stuff. She's kind of part of this EP and the forthcoming album in a much bigger way. You know, she's been such an inspiration, such an encouragement for me. She's believed in what I do and what I continue to do. I'd kind of be a little bit lost without her, to be honest. So thanks, Jan. As well, we've got renowned drummer Joe Crabtree, currently plays with Wishbone Ash, as well as running an amazing YouTube channel. You should check Joe out. He's just an incredible player and the loveliest guy as well. He's playing on one of the tracks on the EP, and on the same track actually that Joe plays on, we've got Rue Walker on guitar. Rue is quite literally genius. I've never quite met anybody like him. His playing ability is off the scale. His creativity is off the scale. He's just kind of off the scale himself as well, actually. He's just an amazing dude. Looking forward to hearing him as well. And although he doesn't appear on the EP, there's a guy called Mike Partridge, another drummer. It's all the drummers. Bass players, no drummers. It's good. He was another guy that recorded his parts a long time ago for me, and that track will appear on the album. And not forgetting guitar virtuoso Paul Williamson. I've known Paul a long number of years. In fact, I first saw him playing when he was pretty much just a kid, and he was amazing then. He's gone on to be an unbelievably accomplished guitar player, and he plays an absolute blinding solo on one of the tracks on the EP, so I can't wait for you to hear that. He's actually playing all the guitars on that track. He's an amazing player. So yeah, another huge shout out there to Paul Williamson. All the engineering, the recording, the production stuff, it's all been done in-house by little old me over the years, and of late obviously here in the bass cabin. A lot of people who know what I do now won't know that I spent probably a good 15 or maybe even 20 years involved in recording. I worked as an engineer and a producer for many years in more than one studio, and I've always had a massive interest in recording, and yet it's a talent that I'd almost forgotten I had, and I hadn't used it for so long. So it's been an absolute joy to be making sound again, you know, creating kind of like oral paintings with sound. I've been loving it. So in short, the EP recordings are all but complete. 2 are absolutely complete, and 2 just need a little work, and they will also be finished. There's going to be a video that accompanies the track Trust in Me. Another great friend of mine, Rory Cowison up in Scotland, is working on that kind of behind the scenes. That's really exciting as well, beyond belief exciting. I want to quickly talk about the campaign itself. Because I've done all the recording already in-house, all the studio time, all that stuff is already done, it's paid for, so there's no costs to raise to make the recordings. And because of this, I can keep my goal on Indiegogo considerably low. What does need paying for are things like the artwork. The concept behind the artwork is already in place, but that needs sorting out. There's going to be the duplication and printing involved for the actual physical CDs. There are a limited number of vinyl 7-inch single pressings that are going to be made as well. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. Those all need paying for, and there are t-shirts that need to be printed once the artwork is finalized. The postage and the packaging and all the rest of it all has to come from the total that we raise here on Indiegogo. And anything that's left after taking out those costs will hopefully go a long way in helping out me and my family getting through these really difficult times. Right, let's talk about perks and what you guys can get out of this. You'll see over on Indiegogo that if you choose to back my project, then you can choose from a whole bunch of perks that I've set up, which I think will appeal to you guys. You can, of course, choose to just contribute on there and not take a perk at all. But anybody that takes a perk, you're going to get to hear these tunes before it actually goes on general release out there. So that's kind of cool in itself. Let me just quickly talk you through the different perks that I've set up. We've got digital download, which is, surprise, surprise, a digital download of the EP. We've got a physical CD, so you can buy a beautifully packaged, proper physical CD. You can have a signed copy of the CD. I'm really excited about this one. I'm doing a very limited number of 7-inch coloured vinyl picture sleeve singles, which will feature 2 of the tracks from the EP. There is a limit on how many of those will be produced, so get in early. But super, super excited to actually be producing a vinyl 7-inch single. How cool is that? Once the artwork is finalized, we're going to have t-shirts made with the artwork on. So if you go on there at the minute, there's just a picture of a black t-shirt. But don't worry, it's going to be as cool as when it's done. So yeah, there's a perk where you can buy a t-shirt and a CD packaged together. You can buy that same package and have it signed. You can choose a perk where you get the multi-track stems of the songs. So you get the bass track, several bass tracks actually on a lot of these tunes, piccolo bass, etc. The drum tracks, you get them all, so you can do your own thing with them, or if nothing else, kind of get in there and have a listen to what we did, and just have some fun poking around. Another perk is called the behind the scenes package. With this one, you're going to get access to a whole ton of making of, bloopers, me kind of like talking through some of the parts and how they were recorded and how everything works, things like that. A bunch of like real behind the scenes insight stuff that's going to be very exclusive. And finally, I've just created a perk today called Promo Video VIP Watch Party. There you go. What this essentially will be like a pre-premiere almost of the Trust in Me video when it's completed. And the way I'd like to do it, I've never done this before, but I've seen it done, so I know we can make it happen, is we'll do a kind of watch party thing, you know, where we kind of, whoever buys into that perk, we can all watch it at the same time. And, you know, we can like comment and stuff like that. I guess it works a bit like a live stream. And I'm hoping there's a way where I can kind of get a video feed going from the log cabin. Jan will be here as well. So, yeah, that's going to be like a really cool, exclusive way of doing it. In fact, I've just thought of another way I could do it. So whatever, we'll make that as exciting as we possibly can. And it's going to be, like I say, a little party for just the people that bought the Promo Video VIP Watch Party perk. I've also created some add-on perks. So for example, if you chose the perk where you get the physical CD and you're in the checkout, you could, for example, add on the 7-inch coloured vinyl. Of course, if you don't yourself want to back the project financially or can't afford it, etc., of course, I totally understand. I'm in that boat myself. But you could still help in a huge way by simply sharing the page. So you could share it perhaps on your social media, you know, on your Facebook page. You could send it to people you think may be interested in a message or an email or even a text. And if you want to do that, Indiegogo have made it super easy, and you'll see some sharing options on the screen. You can either copy the link or share it straight to Facebook, etc., and that will be super appreciated. And please, even if you do purchase a perk yourself, if you could consider doing the same thing, that would be great. I think that pretty much covers everything and where we're up to at this point. Do keep your eyes out, because I will be posting updates as and when they happen. So for example, when the artwork's done and things like that. So try and stay in the loop. It's quite an exciting little journey. And I think that's about it. So from me, Scott Whitley, thanks a million for dropping by. Thanks for anyone who's considering or already has backed my campaign. It means a lot, and it really is genuinely gonna help us out here. So thanks a million, guys, and I'll see you in the next update. See ya.